Hello, Professor. My name is Shruti Kotwal, and I have Atul Gautam here with me as my project partner. Today, we'll be presenting the Cloud Analytics project, and we decided to analyze the crime database for Los Angeles City using AWS QuickSight. A little about AWS QuickSight. It's a cloud scale business intelligence service that can be used to deliver easy to understand sites. So looking at the project overview, we have collected a database dating back from 2020 and it was last updated of 9th of December 2022. The goal here is to detect the most victimized age group, which will also allow us to have better safety decisions and measures to take for the upcoming years. Talking about AWS QuickSight a little more, so it helps us to move away from basic spreadsheet reporting to sophisticated interactive forms of reporting. One of the biggest reasons that we chose that was for the data source capability that it has. It's so like it supports a lot of AWS services as Athena, Redshift, S3, etc. Here we can import from different sources as I told you about, and the data is safe and easy to access here. QuickSight can also be an interactive platform where you can use the you can integrate it with any instance and keep the data settings without or with internet connectivity. Uh, in addition to this, the Spice engine allowed for smooth and fast calculation of the data. While there are advantages of using QuickSight, it isn't like it does not come with flaw. One of the biggest flaws that we faced was that it has very limited visualization options. This makes AWS QuickSight very limited with capabilities. And some of the charts gave us problem for candlestick charts, for high and low comparative charts, and they were not available basically for us. Moreover, the procedure for updating SPICE dataset is still not automated. So looking at the database here, our project is based on a crime dataset from 2020 till 9th of December of 2022. And it has almost around 6,17,000 data entries. Our aim with this project was to use AWS QuickSight in order to retrieve useful information of the most victimized age group, the most the sex group, most common choice of weapon. This information we believe are important because we can use to make to calculate decisions regarding the safety, what can be done to achieve better safety standards in the city of Los Angeles. So as we can see here is the CSV format of the data that we collected from our local machine, and the data was imported to AWS QuickSight to form a dashboard, and Atul would take over from here.
Thank you, Shruti. So once the data was imported into QuickSight, there were a number of calculations that had to be done. However, the data was very big, with like almost 60,000, 70,000 records, and had a lot of rows and columns. So we had to filter that out. And for us to do that, it took a bit of thinking of different combinations and approaches, so that we could use the most useful details from the or data from the CSV file in order to detect the trends that we wanted. So in order to do so, we decided that the best approach would be to take insights that would be the most helpful to calculate the trends, as you can see on the PowerPoint. The first trend that we calculated was the total number of victims by sex. For this, we basically divided the number of victims based on their sex. This also includes gender undefined people, and we had to filter out. So gender undefined meaning the people that are, on gender unconfirmed, if that's the better word. Um, but however, we had to filter out clerical errors, which were made, like human errors, which were made when the data was being processed, as some of the sex, the sex of the victim was not recorded. Secondly, we were able to calculate the average sex of victim per weapon used. So in this case, we were able to calculate based on the weapon choice which sex would most likely be a victim of that weapon. We were also able to calculate the weapon that was used mostly in the city of Los Angeles, so the most common choice of weapon. We were able to calculate the distribution of victim age, meaning we were able to find out the most victimized age group in the city. And finally, we were also able to calculate the number of crime that occurred on a particular date, and the number of victims on that date when that crime occurred. So as mentioned earlier, the first trend that we calculated was the total number of victims by sex. And as you can see, there is almost negligible difference between the male and female population. However, X is gender undefined, folks, so that also has been calculated into the victim sex in the city of Los Angeles. I also filtered out empty sections because those were sex that wasn't recorded due to clerical or human error. The second calculation we performed was average sex of victim per weapon used. So for this, we took the weapon used and the victim sex, the columns, to create this chart. As you can see in the chart, the most common crime against female was heckler assault. The victim group is 100% female. On the male section, 100% of the male victims were victims of assault rifle weapons. Um, so this is the chart that we were able to create that has in-depth look at the names of the crime description, and how many were male victims, how many were female victims, and how many victims were gender undefined. The third calculation that we performed was to calculate the most common choice of a weapon in the city of Los Angeles. This chart shows the top 25 weapons used, and as you can see, the most common form of weapon is bodily choice, or bodily force. So your hands, fist, feet, head, and so on. There is about 115,000 cases of that, where victims have reported being assaulted by bodily force. But however, you can also see from the chart that while that bodily force is the most common form of weapon used, there are a lot of variations where victims have been assaulted by semi-automatic rifles, scissors, guns, vehicles even. The fourth trend that we were able to calculate was the distribution of victim age. We basically wanted to know what age groups were the most victimized, and as you can see from this chart, the most victimized age group is the 23 to 35 years age group, and very close to that is 0 or -1 to 11-year-old victim age group. Finally, we were also able to calculate the number of crimes that occurred on a specific date and the sex of the victims when those crime occurred. On this screenshot of the chart, you can see the highest number of victims on the date in which the highest crimes were recorded. This is from the top 50 of in date crimes that occurred and top 5 in victim sex. So as you can see from this chart, the male population are the most commonly victimized during this time period. However, there are 2 days on the 6th and the 7th where the female population were more victimized than the male population. So from our project, we were able to conclude that the age group of 0 to 11 and 23 to 35 had the most amount of victims reported, meaning that there should be more safety standard and safety protocols targeted towards them, towards this age group to keep them more safe in the city. From our projections and project, we were also able to calculate that the number of victims per sex between male and female was negligible. It was almost equal. And finally, the most common form of weapon used was bodily force, such as your hands, fist, your feet, your head, and so on. So on this slide, you can see a working demo of how we were able to generate the visualization on QuickSight. And I think that is the end of the presentation. Thank you.